Troy Kearns here with Logan. And Logan, you contacted me the other day and you found my name from a friend of yours named Dan. You live in New York City, or not New York City, but you live in Long Beach, New York. You're a young real estate investor. How old? Tell us about yourself. Tell us about how you got started investing. Tell us why you contacted me. Why are we talking today? And what's your goals?
Well, yeah. So I found you from Dan. He gave me your assistant's contact, and I saw that you also are a real estate investor, much more substantial than I am, much more experience. And I look up to you and your portfolio, and definitely I want to attain the success that you have attained in real estate. I kind of got into it much sooner than I was originally planning on getting into real estate.
Right.
Basically, I was running a pretty successful online business, affiliate marketing, and making pretty darn good money for a teenager, especially at the time. Now I'm 20, will be 21 in a couple of months, and then the pandemic happened, and that's kind of what the motivation was for me to take massive action, really dive right in with having zero experience. The only experience in real estate I really ever had was just investing in REITs, REITs. But other than that, I have zero experience in real estate. No one in my family did real estate, but I had been learning over the years, studying hours and hours of courses and books. And the pandemic happened, and I felt that was the perfect time. Interest rates very low, and it just felt like the right time to get in. And I bought my first property several months ago. I closed on it, and I'm under contract now on my second one. We'll be closing on that in the next like 30 to 60 days.
I got to take it back, man. You got so much stuff going on for being 20. That's exciting, and congratulations. And you should be proud of yourself. I mean, first of
Thank
all,
you.
because you're taking action, and so many young people are not, and they're making excuses, and they're creating problems, and they're finding ways not to do things, and you're just getting after it. And that's one of the things I always say in my videos is like, just get started. Like whatever you do, get started, because sitting and thinking about it is never going to get you there. And so you took action. So when we talked on the phone the other day, you said you live in Long Beach, and is that where you bought your first property?
So the first one is about an hour and a half away from me in Suffolk County. The original plan was probably going to do something around me, near me, but the fact is that the cash flow just wasn't there. If you bought a single unit, you're going to be putting a lot more down, making less cash flow. It just didn't make any sense to do something close to me. So I did something in Suffolk, which was maybe like a little bit under market value, but a very fair price, and the cash flows very well. I had a tenant in place.
All right, but let's get into the particulars.
Yeah,
So when you say
yeah,
cash flows very well, how much did you pay for it?
yeah,
How much you got to put into it? Let's go through the numbers. That's what matters, right?
absolutely. So yeah, that property after a $2,000 credit ended up being 213,000 at closing, and I put 20% down, a conventional 20% down loan. And so with closing costs and everything included, it came out to about like 65,000 down.
You have
And
65,000 of your own money that you earned from affiliate marketing, right?
after years of just saving and hoarding every penny and investing the money, putting in the stock
Love it.
market and just stashing it away.
You're
Uh,
like you're like you're like a version of me at 20. I was saving everything, so that's great. Saving and money management happens first, and then investing happens second, right?
Absolutely. Got to be disciplined no matter how much you make.
That's it. I mean,
And
no matter
so,
if you're yeah, that's the best. That's one of the smartest things I've heard somebody say. No matter how much money you make, you got to be
mhm,
disciplined. There's guys who make $10 million a year and broke. People don't understand that. There's guys who make $100 million a year and broke because they got cocaine problems, they got hooker problems, they got lifestyle problems, and they don't know how to invest their money, and so they just burn it, right? And we understand that investing is about turning your money, not just letting it sit. And that's what you understand, because contrary, and you're a New York guy, and you're probably everybody, this is something I found the other day, and I think you'll find this interesting. Do you realize that the stock market was propped up by the 401k program in the 1950s and 60s because people had pretty much lost all of their faith in the stock market because of the crash in the 1930s? And so Congress introduced 401k, which propped up the stock market, which is really just a paper asset that is only good, and it's a debt instrument that allows Wall Street to finance their debt, right? So we're buying paper debt when in reality we're better off, you know, owning real estate and then selling our real estate in a REIT, right? And building our own REIT, not investing in a REIT, but building our REIT. So that's very interesting that you said that. So you're in the deal for about $65,000 of your own cash that you saved up. So on the, so tell me what your exit strategy is and what your long-term and short-term strategy are.
Yep. Definitely to supplement, because I did take a big hit from the pandemic as far as my income. So I'm definitely working on just building up the rental income as much as possible. So all my properties that I'll be doing, at least like the first few dozen, will all be long-term buy and hold. I'm not into flipping. I'm not into wholesaling, anything like that. It's buy and hold long-term for decades to come. And so I'm not going to sell that property probably for at least another 20, 30 years. And so
don't have that attitude with the hold, but don't have that attitude for 20, 30 years, because you're going to be a different guy in 20 to 30 years. Right. And I had the same attitude. I'm like, I'm never selling nothing. And then you're like, wait. The property's worth 500,000. I paid 50 for it. Right. And you're like, so I could either refinance, take the money out, or I could do a 1031 exchange and upgrade into maybe a skyscraper in New York. Like, you got big, you're in New York City. You're in the land of all the guys that I look up to, like Silverstein, who owns like the World Trade Center. The guy who owns the Miami Dolphins, Stephen Roth, he's a big guy. I mean, you're Donald Trump, right? All these huge real estate deals that you could maybe 1031 exchange into a big property that right now you don't see it because it seems so far out, but you're 20, man. In 20 years, you'll be 40, which is still young, but you're so advanced for such a young age right now. You're going to inspire whoever watches this video. They're going to be thinking like, what? And I'm telling you right now, that attitude's right, because you need to have the right attitude, which is hold and be disciplined. And so your attitude's right, but you also have the right attitude if there's a better opportunity that is for you in the next. And I think 10 years is a good idea to put in your head. I think 20 years, maybe a little bit too long, right? But 5 to 10 years is a good holding strategy, right? 20 years, we don't know what's going to happen in 20 years. We might be, walking the streets on robots, right?
Yeah, I would definitely do turn the new 1031 exchange into maybe multifamily or a larger apartment complex. That's definitely a possibility. Absolutely.
So I was just saying that, like, with flipping, I think that it's something that you should look into. I know you're not doing it right now, but I think I was just there. We talked about that. I was just in where you live, work and play, right? And I think that market is super solid. Like, I've looked at flipping in Glen Cove. I've looked at flipping all over those areas. I know New York's got some pretty funky laws from what people are telling me about, like, that you have to have certain disclosures about. Yeah. So long term, your strategy is to hold. Short term, how much are you going to get for rent?
Yeah. So that first deal, my first property, was a unique scenario. I got pretty lucky with that. Believe it or not, the current owner that I bought it from actually wanted to stay in the property for some time, just because they were working and very hectic to move, and just wasn't ready to move just yet. So we actually signed a lease agreement for 6 months. It's expiring in a couple of months. They may extend, maybe not. But currently, I'm collecting $2,200 for rent, and the monthly payment, the ITI, principal, interest, taxes, and insurance, is exactly $1,368 and change. So about $800 something in cash flow, which equates to, it was like a 15 point something % return. So pretty decent deal.
Yeah, for sure. And especially, dude, my first deal, I didn't even do the numbers, right? So you're super smart. You're doing the right stuff. You're studying, you're learning. And we talked about this the other day. And the other thing that you're really good is at YouTube, right?
Yep. I've been building that up as well on the side.
Can you give an old guy, a guy who's double your age, some really good advice on YouTube? Would you help me out?
Sure thing. Well, from what I've noticed, and I didn't learn this overnight. It definitely took me like a year and a half to finally realize this, is that it's just way too saturated right now, right? So if you're gonna just start making content on any topic, it's just not gonna happen that you're gonna start seeing all these people come to your videos unless you get semi-lucky and you strike big on a video or two. But the fact is, it's just way too saturated. Everyone's talking about the same topics in many cases. And so unless you already have an audience and then you're bringing them from one platform to YouTube, you're just not going to get the subscribers. You're not going to get the views and the traffic from just making content that's generic and can be applicable to any day, any time. So you really have to go into relevant content, and it has to be hyper relevant to that specific time. So anything happening in the news cycling right now, literally today, definitely start with that. and you'll start to see a difference, I think, at least in the views and the traffic. And I think you will see a difference if you do relevant content. And then you could do, a mixture of relevant and evergreen content. It doesn't all have to be relevant. You could mix in your evergreen content as well, and it's kind of combine the two of them. And that's definitely a good strategy for YouTube. Definitely being smart with your tags and the, if you just make a video called how to make money, obviously no one's going to come to that video. It has to be more niche. Make specific videos on specific topics that also have a market. Make sure that their market is there. So look up videos that are similar to what you're thinking of making. See if that person got views and traffic on that particular topic, and just don't make them too generic. Make them relevant to the time. Make them specific.
That's a good piece of advice.
Yeah.
So before you produce a video, you type in what it is and to see what that's like number one, right?
Yeah, you got to make sure that there's a market there and that there's an audience for that topic. That's very important. Certainly you can do topics that maybe you're interested in that you don't think anyone else would have an interest in later down the road. But when you're first starting out and building and grinding it out and banging out that content every week, it has to be something where there's already an audience, and you could bring, get some of that market share from almost like a business, get some of that market share from your competitors and bring them over to you.
Yeah, it's so it's funny is you mentioned that, and I've been pushing hard on YouTube, and then I realized, man, I grew TikTok so dang quick because I understand it, right? I got it, right? Like you understand YouTube, and I got TikTok, so I grew it to 25,000 pretty quickly, and then I kind of let off the gas and moved over to push on YouTube. I'm like, I'm just going to keep pushing on TikTok because I feel like that platform probably is going to reward me a little bit better, like you said, and try to transfer as many people as I can over to YouTube, because really it's not about the monetization anyways. It's about what you do with it, right?
Yeah, I'm into building brand, definitely playing the long-term game, not just trying to, post links and get sales of products or affiliate links. It's really the long-term play of building brand and building up that audience and connecting with that audience, making sure they have a personal connection with them, and really, making sure that you comment and reply to every single comment. That's very important to build that personal connection.
Great. Well, I appreciate that. You gave me a lot. I'm going to definitely watch this part of our interview again for sure, just to make sure that I take your notes, because I think that's really good advice. I think that's great advice for anybody, just to kind of, when I didn't even know what evergreen was like 6 months ago. So for evergreen is something that is always applicable, right? Always relevant. And then you called it relevant, which I call trending, right? It's kind of the same thing. So that's something that is topical in today's environment, like COVID or sure. Afghanistan, for a lack of a better word. Just something that somebody's gonna be like, oh, I want to find out about Gabby Paterno, or that girl who died, whatever it is. So that's what you're saying, and I think that's great advice. But you have to stay in your niche, right?
That is true. So it could be relevant, something relevant happening today in your market, in your niche. So, if you're into finance and you're into stocks, maybe it's what's happening with the market today, maybe what the Fed said, maybe in regards to interest rates, maybe in what hedge fund managers are doing today, something, surrounding that idea, but making it hyper relevant, because the news cycle is so quickly. Something that happened today may be long forgotten about tomorrow. So, it is tough because you got to bang out that content quickly so you can get it uploaded.
What do your parents do?
Yeah, nothing like me. Total complete opposites. My mom was in retail. Now she's unemployed. And then my dad, basically, he's pretty disabled, so he can't really work. But he was like in the same.
Did your drive come from internal? Like, you don't want to be broke?
Yeah, I would definitely say that. It was escaping the rat race. And I hate alarms. I hate being told what to do. So it was really wanting that freedom and achieving it and doing anything that's possible. I didn't go to college. I knew it was not for me. So definitely trying to achieve financial freedom and making sure that I basically break the generational curse. Make sure that it never happens again, in a sense.
I think you're probably one of the smartest guys I've talked to at such a young age.
Like, thank you.
It seems like you know yourself very well, which is like probably one of the hardest. I mean, I still don't know myself, right? I'm still trying to find, they say know yourself and you understand exactly what you're trying to do, but we're all so confused because of all the, like you said, you mentioned it before. And I think this is something that like, we get beaten out of in schools, like being told what to do, like, listen, do what you say, do what you're told. Right. And then you're ready for the job market and it pays you peanuts, but you're told what to do. And a good employee listens to what they're supposed to be doing, but a good entrepreneur bucks the trends and starts his own way and says, I'm not listening to anybody and I'm solving problems and making solutions. And I wish I would have, like, at the point in time in my life where you are at right now, when I was 20, I was working at Red Robin. I was paying my way through community college and I was trying to find myself, right? And I was in the point where I was like thinking about going to the military, and I had gone through the processing, and I knew I wanted to be rich. That was 100%. I knew I wanted to get out of the rat race, but I didn't know the way to get there. And the way to get there at a young age. And it took me like 8 more years after that. At 28, I really figured it out. And that's where I knew, okay, I started kind of 24, I went into real estate, but really at 28, I knew, right? I knew the solution. I knew how to get there. Now it's super clear, and things that I never thought I dreamt of, but I really thought, like, man, this is never going to happen, is actually happening. Right. And so that's why I told you in the beginning with that 20-year thing, you're going to, like, where you're at right now, if you're already buying your second deal, right? Like, and it's happening that quickly, you might be at your third deal before the end of the year. And then you're going to be like, okay, Troy, remember what I said about 20 years? Like, I'm in contract on a skyscraper on Fifth Avenue right now, and it's 3 years from now. You just have a very good understanding of finances, and then I'm just assessing that very quickly. So I don't know, you could be just completely BSing me, but it seems like you're very honest. You know your numbers when I ask them, you do your research and you execute. And that's, like, I mean, there's a lot of guys who know their numbers, right? But they don't execute. And then there's guys like me who execute and then figure out their numbers and then realize, oh, that's really important, right? Like, we got to know that stuff. But to have the combo is deadly. I mean, when you got the combination where you execute and you know your numbers, you're unstoppable. So I think you're going to be unstoppable is what I'm trying to say.
Appreciate that. No, I'm not a good math student. I nearly failed math, hate math. However, the numbers in real estate and the stock market, that made sense to me. That I grasped. That those were numbers I understood.
Because you don't want to put numbers together if it's not important. But when it's important, you understand, like, hey,
absolutely.
So you got your second property. We talked about your first one. You're making good cash flow. I had one other question I wanted to ask you.
Yeah.
What is market rent?
Yep. In my opinion, it's actually what I'm renting at currently is below market. I think I could squeeze out another couple $100 or so right now, because especially in Suffolk County, just in the last several months, and Long Island as a whole, just in the last several months, as I was going through the process of getting the mortgage and closing, the property values were skyrocketing and soaring through the roof. So the rent we agreed to, actually, I think it's actually quite below market value. I could probably get another couple hundred.
Maybe $3,500, right?
2,500, 2,400 I could probably get for the rent in the market.
Oh, okay. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
1,900. Okay. I was thinking, sorry, I was confused.
The current rent, I'm currently renting for 2,200. That was the least we agreed to. I could probably get at least 23, 24, 25, depending on, if I renovate a little bit.
You'll be surprised how much more you can get.
Yeah.
We just rented out a property in my neighborhood, a house that I actually own, subject to the existing mortgage, which hasn't been paid in 10 years, which is kind of an interesting way to do things, right? So I bought it from my neighbor who walked away from the house, fighting the mortgage company. So we got like $10,000 in the deal with attorney's fees, but now we're collecting $4,000 a month in rent, right? And the people know it's fully disclosed that the property is under litigation, that it has a foreclosure on it, and that they'll receive notice if that ever happens. And they were good with it because we priced it under market, like it's a $5,000 rental, and then we priced it for $4,000 with all those conditions on it. And so, yeah, the rental market is crazy right now.
Oh yeah, people are bidding out other renters and paying sellers vacations just to get in the house. It's craziness.
It's absolutely insane. So, what did you learn on your first deal?
Well, if looking back, I truly don't regret it. But if I had to, just to have the extra leverage, I probably would have done like a no income check loan just to save myself from showing too much income like in 2019 and 2020. Probably would have done a no income check, like DSCR loan, just to save that, extra taxes, because I actually didn't have tax returns when I was originally buying my first property. So I actually had to declare 2 years of tax returns to get the conventional loan. So that was a pretty big blow because New York taxes are very high, of course. So probably would have done a no income check loan. I would say that, the deal is not going to be perfect every time, right? So you're sending out offers and maybe you're getting a little frustrated that nothing's being accepted. And sometimes you do have to pay a little bit higher of a premium just to get in a house, especially in Long Island where it's red hot right now. So, you're not always going to have the perfect time, the perfect deal. Sometimes you're going to be a little bit unhappy. But ultimately, if the numbers work, the numbers never lie, right? The numbers make sense to you, then go for it. And like you said, take action. Don't just sit around and try to wait for the perfect opportunity.
Right. And everybody always says like, oh, if I could go back 20 years and buy that house, I would have done it.
Yeah.
Well, you're
Yeah.
doing it now. And like you said, in 20 years or in 10 years or whatever, people are going to be like, oh man, I wish I would have bought that. Right. Well, you're going to be like, well, it's gone up triple in value. I've owned it for 10 years. And because we're going through a huge inflationary period right now because they're printing money from the Fed like crazy. And we're going through also like a simple transition between, possibly going off of currency. And I want to talk a little bit about a young guy's philosophy on crypto, because I am totally anti-crypto because I know where it's going. And I believe I know where it's going because they're never going to let crypto go without them getting their slice of the pie, right? And so all these speculative cryptos are whoever's the first is going to win usually. So that's going to be Bitcoin, right? But Bitcoin has to kind of deal with the Fed. The Fed is a private company. I'm sure you know that, right?
Understandable.
Yeah. So what's your theory about crypto?
Yeah. Well, if you like to gamble and you like to play the market and sit in front of your computer screen all day and watch charts go up and down, maybe that's your thing. But we're trying to create generational wealth here and provide for generations to come. That's just not going to be the answer. And so if you want to take a bet on Bitcoin and buy a whole Bitcoin for 40 something thousand dollars right now, which took a dip from 60 something thousand, be my guest, be happy to do it. But it's really only like billionaires and the ultra wealthy can really afford to gamble with that money. You might as well take that same exact one Bitcoin, put it on down payment on a house, and pretty certainly get cash flow in return, get the tax benefits.
Certainly. That's the best answer. So you're saying that speculation is crypto and real estate is certainty.
I would definitely say so. If you're in the right location, there's no such thing as guarantee. But if you know the numbers and they work out, then you might as well take the same money you would have put into a gamble with a stock or a cryptocurrency and put it into a piece of property.
So it's funny. I have a friend of mine who has a brother, right? And I'm going to be careful because if he watches this, I don't want him thinking I'm talking about him. But so my friend tells me, he's like, hey, my brother ran into a bunch of money and his brother is a financial advisor, right? And so I'm talking to him. I'm like, well, how'd you make all the money? He's like, crypto. I'm like, interesting. I said, well, tell me about the deal. So he put like $4,000 and it turned into, $1 million, right? And so he got lucky, right? And luck happens, right? And luck is important. But what you do with that luck is what makes you lucky again, right? And you can't repeat that kind of luck. You know what I mean? You just can't. But you can repeat real estate luck by being consistent. And that's the thing is, when people get lucky in crypto, it actually is a bad thing because they think like I got lucky in the stock market, right? When I was your age, I bought a company called Emulx, EMLX, which is a fiber optic company. I literally bought it after watching Investors Business Daily put out an article. And I was like, oh, that's a good company. Let's look at it. Boom. Yeah, it's good. Click, buy. And then it went up. I'm like, wow, I'm smart, And so that's the way I see crypto. That's the way I see Wall Street. And if people really understood that it's a debt instrument, like literally these companies are in debt and they're raising your capital and you're betting on them and you know nothing about them. You don't know what the CEOs are saying. You don't know what the vision is. You don't know the balance sheet. You don't know anything. And usually it's those people who are the ones giving advice about what to do because they want other people to follow their silly decisions.
Yeah, in real estate, you have control. Stock market, you don't have control of what the CEO decides, where the company, where the direction is going, the products, the cash flow. You really don't have control of much other than whether or not you're shorting or going long on the stock. Real estate, you have control of the asset. You can add value to it. You know the market, you know the location. And so that's where real estate really comes in, is the control.
The control, and I think the exit strategies, right? Like in the stock market, you have one exit strategy: sell, right? Sell or buy, right? Sell is your exit strategy and buy is your enter strategy. In real estate, if you like with me, when stuff got crazy, you can Airbnb now, you can short-term rental, which is you can, long-term rental with furnished. You can turn it into a convalescent home. You can turn it into this home. You can turn it into that home. You can get extra money. You can traditional rent it, right? You can rent it by room, right? You could go say, you know what, maybe this is a better strategy. I got 8 rooms here, and I'm not going to rent that out to a single family house. I'm going to rent it out for $600 a room, and then I'm going to divide the utility. There's just so many exit strategies with real estate. And with the stock market, if it goes down, you get mad. If it goes up, you're happy. And in the meantime, the only time you're ever really excited is when you sell it. And I held on to stocks for 25 years. 25 years. So I can actually say it literally, that you literally, just like you said, you just watch it go up and down. And you're like upset if it goes up, you're upset if it goes down, and you're happy if it goes up. And real estate brings you cash flow every month, and it goes up, and you can extract that cash if you need it, right? And there's just and listen, not only that, but like I said, when you get into other deals like clouded titles, things that other people don't even want to mess with, that you buy non-traditionally, like you bought a traditional sale, right? But if you do something where it's really super creative, they don't have that in Wall Street. They don't even have creative financing in Wall Street.
Right. You're not going to get in before a unicorn company goes up. You're not going to be an angel investor. That's only for the insiders, only for the club, and you're not in that club.
You are very, very smart. So you read a lot, you educate yourself a lot. What are some of your favorite stuff to listen to? What is your kind of your rituals? What is your daily, what is your routine, I guess?
It's really not in order. It's quite chaotic. Yeah. So there's nights where I go to sleep at 8 in the morning. Sometimes I go to sleep at 8 p.m. It really changes every day. My schedule pretty much changes every week. It depends what I'm working on. But yeah, I bang out the YouTube videos consistently. So that's kind of a routine. I do that every other day.
How many videos do you put out a week?
Yeah, right now I'm at every other day. So like 3 to 4 a week.
Are you doing all your own editing on your own?
Yeah, on my own. But sometimes I do live streams as well. So that doesn't require much editing, because you could just live stream it and then, it's uploaded. That's a good idea as well for YouTube. If you want to bang out a lot of content and you're a busy person, try to look at live streams, and YouTube actually favors live content a lot of the times. So if you're interested in that.
I am interested in that. You're the second person to tell me that. Ryan Pineda was the first. He's like, go live. And I was like, okay, I'm going to consider that.
So, use the same like title screens in the beginning and the end of the video. It's not going to matter if you have flying things across the screen. It's just not going to matter. The idea is to get the content out there. If you subscribe to Gary Vee, his dogma of content is king.
I don't know his dogma. No.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be perfect. Just get it out there and then evaluate after. So put the content out there and then take a look at it and say, okay, which videos did better than others? What could I add here and what can I improve? But get that content out there, take that action, and don't really even think about it. Sometimes people are scared of what people will think about them on camera. Sometimes people want to redo an entire video because they didn't like the first take. But it's not going to affect you at all in the long term. No one really cares. Maybe no one even sees that video. So just get the content out there and bang it out.
What do you think is a good time to do lives?
That's also a tough one. The algorithm, there really is no algorithm, because the algorithm changes every day, right? No one knows what the YouTube algorithm is. So honestly, I used to get concerned about the time that I upload a video or go live, but now I don't even think about it anymore. I just go live anytime that I can. Sometimes I can't get up in the morning. Sometimes it's better to do it in the evening. Sometimes I want to get it out at the beginning of the day. So like I said, my schedule, it's kind of chaos. There's no order to it. It is whenever I do it. So
you have the YouTube thing figured out. So you said you have a whole system that you go through, right?
It is like a formula in a sense that I understand. I already know what I'm going to talk about. I know how I'm going to edit the video. It's going to be the same as the one before it. I know what title screen I'm going to add, and I already have that ready to go, in my editing software, just to pop it in. Pop in the footage. I have a hard drive, and it's going to have a whole system down, so that way you can easily bang out that content. And you don't have to be a really techie person. Of course, I'm somewhat good with computers, being a young person, but I'm not in any way like a software engineer or anything like that. Basic computer skills and editing skills that I learned in high school.
What's the name of your YouTube channel?
Just my name, Logan Kohn, Logan Kohn.
Logan Kohn. And how do you know the other guy?
Yeah, that's interesting. I think I was watching my video that I did talking about how I bought my first rental property. And then I believe his video about how he bought his first rental property came up as a suggestion. Went to that video and I commented on it, and we kind of connected from there, connected on Instagram. So it was actually through social media.
Right. So that's great. So you understand. So I had my head buried in the sand for 10 years on social media. I was an early adopter, and then I was an early exiter. Right. And so I just felt like, man, I do. Number one, let's just jump down the rabbit hole a little bit. So at number one, I do believe that a lot of our rights are being violated by a lot of these social media companies. I do believe that Congress needs to step in and say, you know what, you can have the data, but it needs to go away, at the user's request, right? And versus sign your life away, and everybody's got every single thing in your contacts and this and that and the other thing. Unless you're going through every day and checking your phone and this and that and the other thing, they're just sucking all your data out of your phone, out of your email, out of your everything. And to me, as a guy who likes my privacy and stuff like that, it's a little bit disturbing. So I do hope that maybe this video, gets in the right hands and somebody says, we need to do something about that, because I don't think Congress is doing enough about that for private citizens' rights. And that's really what people are upset about right now, is they feel like they have no privacy. And let's go into that. So, me and my wife were talking this morning about how some people like to show everything. Like, let me reveal how much money I made. Let me reveal how much net worth. What do you think about that as a guy who's really smart? Do you think that's a good way to go?
I think, and we've heard this from many, many people, is that money just kind of already amplifies who you already are, in a sense. So it doesn't really change you. It just kind of amplifies who you already are. So if you're someone that likes to show off, and you're someone that needs to show your doings, certainly the more you make, I think that's just going to amplify it even more and put a magnifying glass on it. But I don't think it's a terrible idea. Obviously, if you're running for office, you want to be transparent. But yeah, I don't think it's a terrible idea. I think it really does more good than negative. I think it has more of a positive effect. It inspires others. When I show videos like how much I made on YouTube, or my portfolio, or talk about my rental properties, I don't do it to brag or show off. There's always gonna be someone that has more than me, someone that's richer than me, someone that's doing more than me. I don't do it to show off. I really do it to inspire and educate and provide value. So I don't do it, with a braggadocious mindset.
Yeah, my theory is like the guys who really got money, they don't ever talk about it, right? And the guy and the real money, right? Not the stuff that we know that people are talking about on YouTube, but even like guys like Robert Kiyosaki, who's probably the grandfather of the real estate, right? Yep. I mean, you never hear him say Robert Kiyosaki net worth revealed, because everybody knows he's got money, right? But you hear the young guys talking about it to inspire others. And I think and I go back and forth in my head about this all the time. Like, I don't want to talk about my net worth. I don't even want to do it. I don't know if I should, but I think that, at a certain point, it really doesn't matter, right? It's perceived success versus shown success. And that's why I've held back. And I'm going to continue to hold back until I really get the right answer, I guess, of why I should do it. Like, I've been told to do it twice by several people. And I'm looking at all the really, really wealthy people, not the people who are making money, but the real wealthy people, right? The people who are on the Forbes 400 list. We know how much money they have because Forbes tells you, right? But they're not the ones saying, hey, check out my net worth here, right? So that's the only thing I think. And so I'm gonna hold for now on that until I might change, right? I might say, man, I need to show people so that I'm credible, right? Maybe that makes me credible.
Well, I don't think you have to necessarily reveal your net worth. I mean, many of the finance YouTubers have not revealed their entire net worth. But, certainly breaking down how much you made on a deal or how much a unit cash flows, I don't think there's a problem with that. I think everyone can get some education from that. I don't think they'll view that as suspicious. I think just breaking down how much you made on a deal percentage-wise, maybe you don't even have to reveal the dollar-wise, just percentage-wise. But you don't have to necessarily say your whole net worth.
Good. All right, Logan. Well, I appreciate that. That's good. That's good information. Logan, let me ask you something. So what is the next deal that you've got in contract right now?
Yeah. So that second deal, I wanted to go bigger. I definitely had a bigger mindset. So interesting story. I was already under contract or about to go under contract on a deal a couple months ago. in Suffolk County. It was a Patchogue duplex in Patchogue, and it was a great deal. I mean, it would have made a lot of money. It needed some work, needed a little bit of rehab, but it would have really been a good opportunity to add value. And then what happened is we didn't hear back from the attorneys for a couple of weeks. We really didn't know what was going on. Ultimately, they said that the seller decided not to proceed with the transaction, and I was kind of disappointed. That was pretty upsetting because it really was. It was. I would probably call it a deal of a lifetime. I'd probably say it was a deal I'd remember for years down the road because there was just so much opportunity, and Patchogue is booming right now. Suffolk County, red hot. So I lost that deal, unfortunately. So I had to move on, and I still wanted to do a duplex because I figured if I'm just going to buy a single unit, I'm going to want another single unit anyway. So why not get into something that has a two-family? So ultimately, after looking around, I decided, well, it makes sense to do like an owner-occupied deal, right? So I can use the leverage and get in for less down, maybe 3.5%, 5%. So that was going to be the plan. So I said, okay, let me find something near me. So that way it could be owner occupied. I wouldn't actually be sleeping in that unit. I would just say it's owner occupied. But ultimately, I did not qualify for doing a 3.5%, 5%, or even 10% down. I just wasn't able to show enough income. I wouldn't be able to do it. So I had to put more down, had to do at least 25%. And so that's where I'm at right now. I'm going to be putting 25% down on a duplex that's near me. And it won't be owner occupied because I could just right away rent out both units. And that's where we are right now. It's under contract and I'm in the process of the mortgage and should be closing like in the next 30, 60 days.
So why didn't you do an FHA owner occupant loan on it and then move out? Like move in for a day. That's all you got to do. Right. I think so. And then you'd only have to put 3.5% down. Right. And then you could go buy another one and say, no, I don't like that one. I don't want to live in a duplex. I want to buy a single family. And they would say, yeah, that makes sense because he's moving from a duplex to a single family, right? But you'd only have to put 3.5% down.
Right. That's where the problem came in. The properties on Long Island are so expensive that, yeah, I could probably do that 3.5% down in Ohio or Pennsylvania, but not here. Even with that, putting 3.5%, 5% down, what happens is your monthly payment explodes. It's much, much higher. And I just wasn't able to show enough income to do that, unfortunately, but I would have loved to. Unfortunately, I was not able to qualify.
So have you talked to a commercial lender out there yet?
I've been in communication with a couple of mortgage brokers, that certainly offer commercial loans, but not necessarily commercial properties like 5 units or more.
I'm going to give you a big tip that took me a long time to figure out. So mortgage brokers are not who you want to lend you money. That's who you want if you're a real estate agent and you want to go and get your clients to get a loan. But if you want to borrow money, you want to be working with a local credit union or savings bank that you can have a relationship with, and they are going to loan you. And commercial loans are, listen, I got denied on my house, okay, because I had a mortgage late because my bookkeeper forgot to pay a mortgage bill. And even though I've been paying that same mortgage bill for 15 years, and it wasn't that she forgot it was that they changed their automatic payment system, and that one we had to go through and fix the credit, that whole thing, right? But I got turned down on it because they're so rigid guidelines, as you're aware of, right? And if you're not a W-2 employee and you're self-employed, especially like you are, you don't fit in that box, right? So you have to have a commercial lender, because the commercial lender, you might get declined on the consumer financing, but from a commercial lender, they don't have a broker. They have what is known as a board, right? And if the board says yes, the deal's gone through.
Yeah. The first deal was under a credit union, local on Long Island. It's I think the largest credit union on Long Island, but their options are much more limited. So I wasn't able to qualify for them on this deal. So that's why I went to a mortgage broker. But I don't believe you can get a 3.5%, 5% down with a commercial lender. That's only a conventional.
No, I don't think so.
Right.
Yeah,
no.
Yeah. Not that I'm aware of. If there is, let me know.
Oh yeah, that would be good.
Yeah.
But it doesn't work here in Long Island. The properties I could probably do if I wanted to move to a rural area. Yeah, I could probably qualify for that little down, but unfortunately, it just doesn't work with these high numbers.
Yeah, the commercial lenders are a lot different though. Like on the property I just bought in Kansas City, they're not even making me make payments, right? So because they just add it onto the back of the loan while I'm rehabbing it, right? So instead of making the payment, they add that payment onto the back of the loan, right? So right now, while I'm doing the fix out, they know that I don't have any income coming in, and they know that I'm a sophisticated investor. So as a service to me, They said, do you want us to put that on the back end? And I'm like, yeah, of course. I don't want to pay it right now. And so there's a lot of really cool things once you build those relationships, that if you have the right banker, he's going to navigate that cave that you're going through right now. And it's going to be completely different than what you think it is, right? Like, my commercial lenders told me so many good secrets. Like, he's like, this deal over here, I helped this guy buy. And he's like, but guess what he did? And I said, what did he do? And he goes, well, he's rented out this place for free, but he gets 1% of the sales tax from the state of everything that the guy sells in there. I'm like, well, that's better than rent. You get 1%.
Wow.
Of a big box store. I mean, there's just crazy stuff that, like I said, 20 years is going to change a lot in real estate for you. And you're a smart guy. And I know some of the stuff I'm telling you is registering. You're going, wow. So there's just a lot of, like, if you have the right lending relationship with the right smart banker, the smart banker is going to help you advance your career, because they're not just transactional. They're trying to help you grow. Right.
That's true. And I might stick with residential for quite some time before getting into commercial, just because, that is certainly to be something fearful of, is balloon payments and refinancing at the time and hoping that you can ultimately refinance the deal. So probably stick with residential and just conventional 30-year terms before going into like 5-year with 10-year amortization, things of that nature.
Yeah. So, and that's all subjective, right? If you have the right lender, they can change it all the time. But that is true in commercial. But a lot of times it's all based on income. So you may not even have to come with any money down, right? If you have the right deal, find the right property, you may say, hey, listen, I don't have any money to put down. I got the deal under contract. I need you to do a cash out refinance and give me money, right? So there's just a lot of crazy stuff that you can do that doesn't even seem like reality, but if you don't ask, right?
True. Wow, that's impressive.
So if you need a good lender, I have one in Kansas City. They're all good guys, right? And so you can learn stuff from them. I could be happy to share you with that. And if any of the people who are watching this video right now want good hard money lenders, they can comment below, and I'll include a link to that, or include a link to like a personal finance person that we have. Now, what would your takeaway for somebody who's watching this video be? What would you want someone to learn about getting started, and why should someone follow you? Why should someone pay attention to what you've got to say?
Makes sense. Well, I would definitely say, especially for someone my age, first starting out, and that's certainly a portion of my audience, is that if you're going against the grind and going against what other people say, just get started, start learning, collect as much information as you can, learn from people that have already done it, learn from people that are in your scenario already that you want to reach that level. You don't have to go from A to Z overnight. Definitely take baby steps. Understand that there's a pretty good chance that a formal education is not the right path for you. With so much information at our fingertips today, we can literally learn anything we want, and you're probably just wasting your time with a formal degree. And I understood that pretty quickly in high school. So learn as much as you can. Don't compare your situation to other people's. If you're starting out, don't compare your situation, your chapter 1 to someone else's chapter 20, and make sure that you're good with your money. I was very, very close to pulling the trigger on a Rolex or some luxury item, but I said, it really isn't going to do anything for me in the long term, and just save your money, hoard it, invest it, throw it in the stock market in the meantime, but don't waste all your money, because especially with the soaring inflation and the prices going up, you're going to need that money. So every nickel you save is going to count towards your future.
Right. Good advice. Really good advice. Do you have any questions for me?
Well, I guess, what's your opinion on doing residential versus commercial? And would you recommend sticking with residential for quite some time, or trying to get into commercial as soon as possible? How do you know that a deal will work when, with commercial loans, you have to be prepared to refinance or have balloon payments down the road? And is it easy to make a deal cash flow commercial wise compared to residential? And I guess analyzing the numbers and breaking down the deal.
So they're totally different, right? So residential for me is like, you seem like you're a well-studied guy, so I'm going to bring this up. The way I look at this, I really bad decisions for anything. When you make bad decisions, you either can make a change and make good decisions and learn from that, or you can continue to make bad decisions, right? So I made a mistake and learned from it. And I realized that not having any debt, right, is always, it has no pressure, right? Once you have no debt, you have no pressure. right? When you have a mortgage payment, you have pressure, right? You have pressure to get the property rented, pressure to make decisions, and just regular pressure. So the fact that, you know, you talked about New York being so expensive and the down payments are this and the down payments are that, we know that, right? So I look at other markets like Kansas City, Missouri, or St. Joseph, Missouri, or Ohio, or any place in the Midwest or in the Southeast, and I'm like, well, you could buy these houses for $20,000 or $30,000 that rent out for $800. So what if you don't get the appreciation? Because we don't know if we're going to get that anyways, but we're going to be able to build our cash flow. So that's my little, like, hey, that's my protection, right? That's my minot line from the World War II. That's going to stop the German tanks from coming through, right? Those little houses protect me from the commercial ones that are scary, right? Those commercial deals are scary. So those little houses protect me. That's how I look at that. So I would start with residential because it gives you transactional experience. But I would be as quick to be open-minded to getting to commercial, because commercial doesn't mean that you can't borrow commercial loans on residential properties. It just means it's a business loan for an entity versus a personal loan for an individual, right? And generally you're going to have to sign a personal guarantee, right? But as you go down the road, and I just did a refinance on my property that I bought in 2016 as a 1031 exchange from properties that I bought 10 years ago. And I took all that money and put it in there. And then I just pulled it all out 4 years later, right? And so I have it all back, all the money that I put in. The payment's the same. The cash flow's good, same cash flow, but I got my original investment back. And now I have non-recourse debt through Fannie Mae, right? Non-recourse debt, which means that if I stop making the payments for some reason, they're only entitled to get the property, not anything I have, right? One thing I want to mention why it's in my brain is we're both very, I would say, the same way when it comes to money. Like, you understand. One thing that I understand is interest accrues daily, so pay down weekly, right? If you could pay weekly, but if you have automatic payment set up, if your payments on your mortgage, you said is, how much did you say that first mortgage was?
Yeah, that mortgage is pretty low right now, $1,368 and change.
So the way I do things is like this. I'll be like, all right, the mortgage is $1,500. I'm going to divide that by 4. So that's going to be $375 a week, right? I'm going to pay $375. I'm going to pay one mortgage payment right away. Okay. And then I'm going to pay $375 a week starting right away. So then I get ahead of it. That pays it down in like 11 years that way, right? 11 or 12 years. Now, and it really is inconsequential from your cash flow, right? But what it does is it kills that interest, right? Because when you look at an amortization schedule, it's just a bunch of BS. The first year is almost like 99% interest, right?
Right.
You're actually paying 99% interest, right? So I don't like to look at things like, oh, I'm paying 3.9, I got 3.25, or I got 3.1. You got nothing, buddy. You got a 3.25 stretched out if you pay it over 30 years. So I would say my best advice is, and I think you're already good at this, is pay down debt, right? Pay down debt, continue to buy, refinance when you need cash, have access to cash, and get into commercial real estate as soon as possible. Because it might sound scary to you right now, but in fact, it's actually easier to qualify for commercial deals. Like I told you, I got denied on my personal residence, but which was not that much money because I didn't fit the box, right? But they loaned me money on a 31 unit property where I don't make payments on.
Wow.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah. Now in New York, though, it is tough. It's certainly different than in the rural areas, from what I understand, to get a HELOC or a cash out refinance on investment property. It's very difficult to try to get that. No credit union will do it. However, the only option that I found is that TD Bank actually will do a HELOC on investment property, 75% LTV, but you have to have held that property for 1 year. You need 1 year of holding it. And I think PNC Bank does it as well. But it's very hard to refinance and do HELOCs on investment properties in New York.
Yeah, so I would definitely get started in commercial. I would build a relationship with a banker. You know, I would try to find a couple smart bankers that actually really love banking, right? They're not like just looking at a job. This is their passion, this is their career, and they're going to be able to be a good tool in your toolbox to help you make smarter investing decisions because they're going to educate you on loans that you don't even know exist right now, and deals and structures, because they see so many of them from other smart investors that they didn't know it, but they passed on knowledge that they found out from somebody else. Right. And that's what commercial real estate's all about. Like, there's so many ways to do a deal. Like, and here's another great one. Now that you're a business owner, I'm going to talk to you about this real quick because I know you're going to like this. So if you're a business owner and you want to go get an SBA loan to buy property, you only have to occupy 51% of it, right? And then you can rent out the rest. So let's say you want to buy a big building in Long Island, right? And you're like, this is going to be Logan's headquarters, LLC, right? And I'm going to get 10% down on this business loan. And I'm going to buy this piece of property. And the bottom floor is going to pay for the mortgage, and the top floor is my office. And then you know what? Guess what? That business is not good anymore. I'm going to rent out the top floor. And then I'm going to refinance it with another lender after I get those people in there. And then I'm going to go repeat that process to do it again. It's like the FHA loan for businesses.
On steroids. Yeah.
I have a towing business. I made no money in the towing business, but I bought a piece of land with the towing business that I made $750,000 on, right? So the towing business, because of my real estate knowledge, made me $750,000. And that was a 10% loan down. And that's the only money I made in that towing business, right?
Makes sense.
So just some, did I answer all your questions? I think I skipped over one or two.
I believe that covers it. Have you had a situation where you've gone into an apartment complex or multi-unit, and maybe you were expecting to be able to raise the rent to create some cash flow, but maybe the tenants disagreed with it and didn't want you to raise the rent, and maybe that created some problems?
That's always an internal struggle, and I still have that because we're all human beings, right? So yeah, I have a hard time raising rent on people because, number one, when you have something that's not broken, I don't believe in fixing it. And it's easy to fix it when you buy it, right? So I'll give you an example. So like, it's easy to see the problem that other people have, and it's hard to see your own problem, right? And so when I bought a property recently in Vegas, 2018 or 19, it was a commercial property. And I saw the problems from the guys who were selling it for me. They were paying for everybody's water. They were paying for everybody's electric. So they're pissing away like most of their profits in that. So the first thing I did is I introduced a CAM, right? Triple net, and got rid of that. And I kept the rents the same, which were already low, but I recaptured all the profit that was being pissed out the front door. So I would say I'm not so focused on trying to increase rents. I'm trying to focus on increasing profit, right? And finding out where is so like on the property I'm talking to you about right now, from that first experience, I know that we need to sub-meter all this stuff. We need to make sure that the internet is actually a profit center, because we know the internet's it's not even a question. It's a utility now, right? It's a utility for people.
Yeah. Because
they're not going without it. They're not going out with water, internet, or power, probably in that order, right? And so, because once the power goes out and the internet goes out, they don't have either one of them anyways.
And gas.
But I think they'd rather have their yeah. So I would just say that I kind of lost my train of thought. So whatever. Oh yeah, I know what I was saying. So the internet now is going to become a profit. It was a problem for me, right? You have to deal with all these different internet providers. They're going to drill holes in your wall. Now we go in there, we put a mesh network in, we build super high Wi-Fi, and then we create an LLC called like Kansas City Wi-Fi that bills all the customers. We say, listen, there's only one place with Wi-Fi. It's cheaper than everybody else. So it's a service to you. And it's included in your rent, but you can't deny it. You can't not get it. You have to get it, right? But it's a good deal for them. And as long as they understand that, you can't have Cox, you can't have this guy, but you can have this one. This is what it comes with. And so now,
that makes sense.
Now, rather than the internet company being a problem for me that I got to deal with, now it's a profit center.
Yeah.
So eliminate the expenses. Don't always focus on the rent. People focus on the rent too much. And sometimes, if on the rent, if you jack someone's rent up and then they move out, And then you got to spend money fixing it up. And then in commercial, you might lose 6 months to a year, right? And not on multifamily, but on commercial, right? Businesses.
Yeah.
So, I had a tenant in there for 14 years. They just moved out the other day. And I bought it with them in it. And I'm like, can I keep you? Is there any way I can keep? No, we're out. I'm like, okay, great. That's fine. I never raised their rent, But now as I go in, when we redo it, the rent's going up, and I just believe that if you push someone out and it costs you 6 months, you blew everything that you were going to make on that little consequential. And the people who are usually pushing rent are property managers. They don't care if a property sits vacant because they're looking at the big picture, which is cap rate and this and that. But that's not what you and I are looking at. We're looking at cash flow that we self-manage, right?
Right.
And so for us, we want to keep good paying tenants in our property that we have a relationship with, that respect our property, that aren't going to damage our property, and that are going to pay us a good rent that we're going to slowly adjust over years to keep them in the property. Because they're the ones that are paying down the mortgage, right? So that's my opinion about that.
For sure.
Hope that helps.
Oh yeah, no, I understand. When I look forward to getting into that, years down the road and building my empire.
Yeah, I think you're going to build an empire. I see it coming. Logan, appreciate you reaching out to me. I appreciate, if you guys are not subscribed to Logan's channel, if you're not subscribed to my channel, make sure that you subscribe. Make sure you smash the like button, and make sure if you got any questions, if you want me to have Logan back on, if you want me to go back on Logan's channel, make sure that you comment below. Make sure that you get started. If you don't do any of that stuff, if you don't give us the courtesy of giving us a like or a subscribe or a comment, then get started and do us a courtesy by getting started in real estate, getting started doing something today to change your financial future. Look at Logan. He's 20 years old. He's in his second property. He's going to be the next Stephen Ross in New York. And I look forward to seeing you and doing more interviews with you. So I appreciate you reaching out to me.
It was a pleasure. I appreciate it greatly.